Well, I chose to come to Italy for various reasons. I had cousins, friends and relatives who told me about Italy. And I saw that those returning from Italy bought themselves new cars. They got married, they went round with gold chains, and they were well dressed. And all this gave the impression that the country offered good living conditions, work and wealth. The first day, January the 1st, 1990, was a big disappointment, I must say, because it was freezing. Another disappointment, I have to say, was seeing my friends and relatives crowded in their homes and in their rooms. But I said to myself, well, it's okay. It won't always be like this. In fact, it wasn't always like that. On my first working day in Italy, I was a avoicomunicare, a street vendor, because when I arrived, I had the good fortune of running into the Martelli law that allowed me to ask for a residence permit right away. So they gave me a carton with lighters, bracelets, and cassettes of Mina and Nino D'Angelo. When I was alone, I cried. It was very difficult. I said to myself, this wasn't the work I wanted to do here. 6 months later, I already had a residence permit in my pocket and the chance to take a course in bread making, prestine. And so later, I began to work. For 6 or 7 years, I worked in a bakery making bread rolls and pizza, and I enjoyed the job very much. And in the meantime, I met a director from Senegal, Oumar Ba, and he was setting up a performance called Under the Bed. And at the time, he was already working with the Mascareneri Lab. But I had no idea what the theatre was. And so I began my theatre experience, which became my tragedy. I often performed without knowing the meaning of what I was saying. I can still remember a scene in Naples where I was to chase away a person saying, "Vattene!" And I didn't know what it meant, but I said it anyway. And the audience burst out laughing. And I wondered, why are they laughing? Then I had the fortune to meet Emilia-Romagna Teatri, which I did La Bottega del Caffè by Goldoni. And that's a mystery too, because I'd never acted in a theatre or performed in classical works. And through AGD, the agency belonging to Paolo Guerra and Emanuele Rossi that produced until a short while ago Paolo Rossi and Aldo, Giovanni and Giacomo, I performed in Romeo and Juliet with Paolo Rossi, where I played the part of Romeo and other roles, like the dancer, for example, or Mercutio. I did various performances until I reached the Zelig stage with the Zelig Strangers team. That was an experiment with various foreign comedians. During La Bottega del Caffè, which opened the doors to classical theatre, I sensed something, not on the part of the other actors, but inside the theatre. Because the people in these particular theatres, they weren't used to seeing a coloured performer. So my first reaction when I got to the theatre was to ask myself, what should I do? Get upset or not? And once at the cafe, the waiters didn't want to give me coffee, saying, this cafe is reserved for only the theatre clients. And near me was the culture counsellor during that period. And I answered, well, first of all, I could be a theatre goer. I could be here to watch the performance. And secondly, I belong to the company of actors. The counsellor said, this is a place of culture, and this tone is not used. And I replied, if this is a place of culture, you should know that Japanese, Chinese, Africans, and Moroccans can come here. And that is culture. I just want to be an actor. I just want to tell what I am, let others know who I am, but also get to know your culture. I don't feel like being the coloured guy, and I want to stress that. Senegal is an Italian-Senegal association that was created within the Senegal community by a very restricted group of people at first, who wanted to come out of their environment to get to know the Italian culture and to tell about the Senegal culture, something that's a bit different. And the association was originally created to answer the needs of the Senegal people in Senegal, and even in Italy, because, as they say, in union there is strength. So we began to think of so-called co-development projects, having questions like, what can we do for the people of our country? What can we do so that the people don't leave their country to emigrate elsewhere? And I often say that emigration is development because having come to Italy gave me the chance to do many things, and I learned many things from Italians. We're not giving a lot to Senegal, but we are receiving a lot from Senegal. It's absolutely necessary to travel and emigrate and learn things, even if there are different ways of doing so. If one could learn without emigrating, it would probably be even better. But it is through journey, through the paths of men, that change takes place. It is often said that diversity is wealth. So I say, if we don't know one another, how can we use this wealth? If I'd only come to Italy as a tourist, I wouldn't have discovered Italian culture, I wouldn't have created my friendship with Italians, and I wouldn't have learned this language.